Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Glen Carlson. Glad you're all here, and this video is fundamental. It's all about this idea of building out key business assets into your business. If you imagine there's a spectrum all the way from you running around doing everything, stuck in the business, all the way onto the other end of the spectrum where there's you totally free from the business, it works well, it's profitable. That spectrum, I used to think the solution to that was working harder, was better sales and marketing. One of the key things that I learned was this one maxim, that all stress, frustrations, and bottlenecks could be traced back to an asset deficiency. And I was pretty good at sales and marketing, built a multi-million-dollar global business. We started in Australia, we expanded to the UK, we were doing 10 million revenue in year 3. But the point was, we got to the point where we were ready to sell and it wasn't worth anything. I didn't understand assets whatsoever. And that is exactly what this video is gonna help solve for you. So let's do it. What is an asset? Let's start with some definitions because it sounds as boring as shit. If you ask an accountant or Google, what is a business asset? Let me show you. A business asset are items of value that your business owns, creates, which is kind of important, or benefits from. Assets can range from cash, raw materials, and stock to office equipment, buildings, and intellectual property. So that was the boring version. Now I'm going to give you my version. I needed something more practical. We had offices and office equipment and AV equipment and all that kind of kit, and yet those were commoditized assets. You could go down the road and buy them from the shop. They weren't hard for a new business owner to be able to acquire themselves, and so the value of our business stayed really, really low to the point where we couldn't even sell it for anything worth considering. But assets aren't just about being able to sell the business. They're also the things that provide you with fun, that provide you with profit, that provide you with time and liberty, and actually have a business that runs and works without you. It's kind of like shifting your mindset from being a business operator, where you're the one doing all the stuff, to like a property investor or a property developer. A property investor or developer builds an asset, so once it's done, it produces rent without them involved. It produces a growth in value. And that's kind of what we've got to apply to our business, except the problem with business is it's freaking intangible. For most of us, businesses are a list of like to-dos and meetings and projects and fires you got to put out and like bits of software that somehow you can't stub your toe in it, you know what I mean? So it's kind of easy to get lost in that soup, in that fog of doing as opposed to building. And so having an asset mindset is really creating that shift. But let's get to a more practical definition, right? So an asset is anything that achieves an outcome more effectively. Anything that helps you achieve an outcome more effectively is what I would consider to be an asset. The first key point, people aren't assets. We're people. We're beautiful, we're awesome, we're creative, we're amazing. Couldn't do it without us. The problem with people, including you, including me, is we have bad days. I don't know about you, but I have a bad day, and if I have to be going out to an important meeting or pitching my business or really focusing on an intricate problem, it's like, oh, the level of performance you're gonna get out of me, really, really low, and it's the same with you. Whereas, if we've produced an asset to achieve that same outcome that a human was otherwise going to have to do, that asset, be it a system, be it a process, be it some intellectual property, I'm gonna break these down in some examples later, achieve that same outcome consistently, reliably.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Now, of course, the word outcome in there is important as well. You've got to know what is the result, what is the outcome, what is the problem that you're trying to solve. If you go back to that original phrase, all stress, frustrations, and bottlenecks can be traced back to an asset deficiency. You need to be aware of what is the stress, frustration, and bottleneck you're trying to solve, and what is the new outcome you want to look like. That all goes into the design of the asset. And if you get that wrong, you're just gonna pour all this money, time, and energy into building assets that don't actually yield an outcome. It's the same as building a house. Doesn't just automatically mean someone's gonna rent it out. You could have a whack looking house that no one wants to rent, that no one wants to buy. It's not gonna serve the outcome of being livable. And finally, it's got to achieve it more efficiently or effectively. And by that, I mean faster, better, cheaper. By faster, I mean it does it with less human time. Cheaper means more profit from your business, and better means it's going to deliver a better outcome for your customers, ideally faster and cheaper for you. So starting to get the sense, the more assets we're able to build that do things better, faster, cheaper, more consistently, more reliably, it's obviously going to make your experience of business better, because you are now moving from that spectrum of running around doing everything yourself to, all of a sudden we've got assets that are effectively doing that running around for you. More freedom, more liberty, more profit. Okay, I hope that's making sense. I want to take you a quick little real world trip to show you that this doesn't just work with business. You can kind of apply this to anything. Let's go. So I'm a clubby down here at Bondi, and the objective in there is no lives lost out there. Let me show you a few of the little assets that we have that make this work. You can see we got first aid kits, we got defibs, we got all the radios. So you can appreciate without this stuff, without any of this stuff, it's gonna be way harder. Let me show you down the beach and the boats. So you get it, these assets help us get the job done better. Now let's talk about property. So I ask people all the time, if they want to really grow their business, what should they focus on? And 9 out of 10 times the answer that comes back is more sales and more marketing. But if I talk to a property developer or just a property investor, if they want to get more yield out of their property, they're not going to focus on sales and marketing. They're not going to focus on running bigger ads or hiring salespeople to try and rent out their house. They're going to renovate, because as property owners we understand that the underlying yield is predicated on the quality of the asset. So if you think about your business like a property, you've got sales rooms, marketing rooms, operations rooms, delivery rooms, HR rooms, IT rooms. I fucking hate the IT room. And then you ask yourself, do these rooms deserve a high yield, or do they need a bit of renovation? Let's go back to the office. So one of the things that we did is we wanted to think about our business more like property. And so we mapped out all the different rooms. We looked at really successful businesses, $50, $100 million plus businesses, and we broke down what are all the different rooms they've got in their business and what are the assets that make those rooms high value, high yield rooms versus low value, low yield rooms. And I'm not going to go through it all in this video, but here's a little poster. You can get it in the links below, but there are 24 different rooms broken up into 7 major categories or floors of a building. So I'm just going to give you 3 examples of this. You can print it out for yourself, go through it yourself. It's fairly self-explanatory, but if you would like me to do another video that goes into like way more detail into these 24 different categories of assets, hit me up in the comments below or ping me on any of the social media links. Like get into the conversation and let's build this stuff out. So remember, all stress, frustration, and bottlenecks can be traced right back to an asset deficiency. Back in the day, my biggest stress, frustration, and bottleneck was sales and marketing. I was constantly having to chase the next sale, constantly having to manage the marketing machine. That was a huge problem. Now, there's not just one asset that's going to solve all of that, but one of them is a content asset. It's in the layer of intellectual property assets. Intellectual property is the stuff you come up with yourself. So there's your own registered IP, there could be content, your unique methodology, like your 7 habits of highly effective people or the 5 Ps of becoming a key person of influence. That's going to be an important asset for you as well. But from this perspective, we just started putting out content, videos, my podcast, blogs, articles, white papers, and that became an evergreen asset out there in the market. People would consume that content, they'd go, that's an interesting idea, and then they would start showing up inbound to us. So all of a sudden, the energy and effort I had to put in to sales and marketing dropped. Still had a sales and marketing team, but their effectiveness went right up. So another one of the issues that I had early on is that everybody on my team had a different attitude, a different philosophy, a different belief system, and it was kind of like, oh, there was this clash. And the missing asset was we didn't have clear, strongly held values. Now, it may sound wishy-washy, but if you get someone on your team that's performing really well based on the job that they were hired to do, but they are an absolute dick, it's really, really hard to performance manage them out of the business because based on their position description, they're doing their job. So if you sack them, it's highly likely you're gonna end up in fair work. So what was the missing asset? Well, we clarified, we started with these 9 values, which are just freaking ridiculous, right? Here's an image of them there. No one could remember any of them because there was too many. So we broke it down to the values that I wanted to live my life by, that I wanted to teach my kids, which was be brave, have fun, make a dent in the universe. We adopted those as the 3 core values. All of a sudden it created a North Star for this is who we are and this is how we roll. And it's in our position descriptions for the jobs. It's in our codes of conduct. It's baked into the onboarding process. By the way, all of these are assets that make onboarding team, aligning them to the culture, more efficient. So they're things that help me achieve an outcome of having a better, more efficient and effective team. So that's a simple asset that can align the energy of a team really effectively. But then there's the actual way people work. So values will help with the vibe, but what about the actual practical day-to-day? So let's look at a management and admin asset. One of the things that you're probably looking for is ways that you can get more distance from your business. To do that, you need the operations running incredibly smoothly. If you've hired managers before and they haven't been effective, it's possibly because you hadn't given them the right assets to be able to do a great job with, and you were relying on their experience, their knowledge, and they were kind of customizing that as opposed to running on kind of global best practice. So a simple asset that we have is we have a structure for how we run our weekly team meeting. I'm not going to go into the whole structure of that right now, but I'll give you a small taste. Here it is on the screen. Every single Tuesday at 12:05, and we do it at 12:05 because 12:05 means 12:05, whereas 12 o'clock, people are early, people are late. It's important to start on time. And then there's a specific formula, there's a process that we follow every single time that makes sure that every single person in the company, it's an all hands meeting, is reminded of the vision, the values, our goals, our objectives, our rocks. And again, I can go all through this in another video, but if you look at one little element here, and I'll zoom in some more, you'll see there's a little notification which gets people to share to one other person something that they've noticed they've done, a bit of kudos around being brave, having fun, or making a dent. So this one little asset of how we run a business, that little reminder there helps bring to life the values of the business, where every single week people are having the spotlight put on them for something they've done that was brave, that was fun, or that made a real dent in the universe, that created a real result. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 3 simple examples of how building assets can solve some of the big mission critical problems in your business. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please help the algorithm. Give me a thumbs up, ring that bell, subscribe if you'd like to be notified of upcoming videos. And as always, be brave, have fun. Let's go make a dent in the universe.